Now, straight to our second speaker in favour of the motion, a former Knesset member and cabinet minister. He served as Minister for Social Affairs and World Jewry and as Deputy Minister of Education and Culture, as well as Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. Currently, he's a social and educational activist and rabbi in Jerusalem, Rabbi Michael Mלכיאור.
Thank you very, very much. I will not fall for the temptation of starting to answer the arguments which we just heard from Ambassador Oettinger. I will leave that to Ambassador Gillerman to do that. I know that he's been working for years against those arguments, so I'm sure he will do it in a much better way than I can do it. I would like to share with you an episode which happened for me some 23 years ago when I was much younger, when I was less shaky, when my beard had a different color. I just come on Aliyah to Israel, very enthusiastic Zionist, and I had the honor of arranging one of the most important conferences ever, a conference in Norway arranged by the Elie Wiesel Foundation and the Norwegian Nobel Peace Committee, about the anatomy of hate and conflict resolution. And some of the greatest thinkers and world leaders, freedom fighters, came together in Oslo that summer. And one of them was one of my great heroes who had just come out of prison, Nelson Mandela. And there had been some derogatory remarks from him and other leaders, not understandable, about Zionism, and we were worried what he would say in public when he came. This was I think his first visit to Europe after he came out of prison, his first public appearance. And we met with him. I met together with Professor Wiesel, and he came out with a statement after we had talked with him. First he said, I'm very positive to Zionism. He said, Zionism meant a lot in my life. He said, I read when I was in prison also the book of Menachem Begin, The White Knights, which meant a lot in establishing and inspiring my fight for freedom. And then he publicly said the following. He said, if Zionism is the right of the Jewish people to self-determination in its own land, then I'm supporting it. I'm all for it. If it means opposing the right of another people, then I am against it. And I got him even to add to this statement that the first part of the statement, he said, this is my opinion, that is what Zionism is. I thought a lot about this. This was, of course, in a universal context. But I thought about this specifically in a Jewish context, and I want to speak, as Professor Beinert spoke, mostly about the democratic context. I want to speak about what it means for me, what a Jewish state is about. The convening event of the Jewish people was not, as it says in our Declaration of Independence, that we were born in our own land. No, we were not. We were born, according to our tradition, in the land of Egypt, in the seam between slavery and freedom. That was where we became a nation. Jewish nationalism was born from the humiliation of oppression and slavery, and forever was combined with that. That was where we became a people. That was where the story of the Exodus, which has followed us not only for Passover, for Pesach, but it's a story which follows everything Jewish. We can't do anything without that story following us. There is no Jewish history, no nationalism, no Jewish state without that story. One of the great Jewish rabbis, he paraphrased this a short time before political Zionism came to be in his interpretation to the Haggadah of Pesach, where he writes the following. It's a very important statement. He writes the following. He says, Rashal Hirsch, Samson Raphael Hirsch, he says, in Jewish law, it is not the state which grants human rights, but it is human rights which grants you the right to have a state of your own. And I think that that was the reason why it was easy for the greatest of the sages of the Second Temple, the famous Hillel, when he was supposed to stand and explain Judaism standing on one foot in the famous story, when he could stand on that one foot and saying, the whole of the Torah, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the entire Torah. The rest is just explanations. Now go and study the explanations. Now, that was easy. He didn't have 12 minutes. He had 1 foot. And I think that when we then talk about the Jewish state, the Jewishness of the state, those who want to limit the Jewishness, and I'm not talking about religion, those who want to limit the Jewishness of the states of Israel just to be something national which empties the whole substance of the state, they do not only empty the substance, but they empty the whole meaning of what Judaism has been since its birth. The whole content of what it is to be Jewish and what it has always been. The founders of Zionism, all of them understood it. I won't mention all of them, Achad Ha'am and Hess and all of them. All of them understood that. They did not want only to establish a vessel here. They wanted an ethical, moral, and a Jewish content, whether they were religious or secular. They wanted to give it meaning and content. And therefore, I think that it was natural that the Zionist leaders always, it was evident to them that they wanted the self-determination, the rightful self-determination of the Jewish people not to be on the expense of the Arab people living here in this area. Therefore, they accepted always the division plans, even the impossible division plans. Therefore, Ben-Gurion wrote before 1947 division plan, we accepted the self-determination of the Arab people living here in the land of Israel. It was not easy, it was with a heavy heart, because we have aspirations for all of Eretz Israel. But it was a natural thing, it could not be done on the expense of the other people. I think that today we must recognize we are at a juncture, and we must recognize as a proud and a free Jewish people that the rights of the Palestinian people also to self-determination in their own state, in Judea and Samaria and Gaza, as our neighbors, That is a right which we are not giving them. This is part of the same principle of Hillel, doing to our neighbors what we rightfully demand from them to do to us. The negation of that right and the continuation of the present policies, which today are continued with the present policies, and the people who are put into place responsible in the present government to do the settlement policies in the present government, and nobody is talking about it, and nobody cares about it because we're all dealing with other stuff. That has nothing to do with the things which Professor Eiting has talked about. It has nothing to do with what is going on in the Arab world. It has nothing to do with the security concerns, which are real concerns and which can be addressed and have been addressed by all the people who know about security concerns. It has the sole purpose to create a situation where there can never be a fulfillment of that right for the Palestinian people. By continuing this policy, it will not be possible in the future. We will not only lose our ties to the world and to our friends, we will not only lose our aspiration to stay a democracy, but in our eyes, we will lose our possibility, we will lose our connection to thousands of years of Jewish story and of Jewish tradition. We will have emptied the real content of what it is to be a Jewish state. And that is the danger of continuing the present policies. That, for my friends, is the danger. It is in our hands at this point to change these policies. We just have to work for that and do what is right. Thank you, my friend.